Ladies and gentlemen, forget everything you think you know about a routine first-round doubles match. Forget the idea that two players meeting for the very first time on the same side of the net should need months to find their rhythm. Forget the notion that a 25-year age gap between partners is a weakness to be exposed. Because on a cool grass court evening in Germany, something happened that defied every expectation, every assumption, every conventional rule of how chemistry is supposed to be built. This was not just a win. This was a statement carved into the history of the sport. A day after losing in the ladies' singles competition, Eala made sure her partnership with seven-time Grand Slam champion Venus Williams at the start of the 2026 WTA 500 Bad Homburg Open Women's Doubles Championship would not end up to nothing. The 21-year-old showed consistency and aggression, while the 46-year-old Williams displayed power as they outplayed American Catherine Harrison and Australian Alexandra Osborne 6-3, 6-4. 2 sets, 70 minutes, and a partnership that the tennis world had only dreamed about suddenly became frighteningly, beautifully real. To understand the magnitude of this moment, you have to understand where it took place and what hung in the balance. The WTA 500 grass court tournament in Germany serves as the final tune-up before Wimbledon. This is not some forgotten stop on the calendar. This is the last laboratory, the final dress rehearsal before the most sacred fortnight in tennis. Every point played here echoes forward to the lawns of London. And the names involved, they tell a story all their own. Winner of 22 doubles titles, including 14 Grand Slams, the 46-year-old Williams uses this German competition as a warm-up for her reunion with her sister Serena at Wimbledon. Think about that for a moment. A woman who has nothing left to prove, a 5-time Wimbledon singles champion, a former world #1 dies, choosing to grind out a first-round doubles match as preparation. That is not nostalgia. That is hunger that never died. And on the other side of that partnership stood the future. Hamburg served as Eala's final preparation before Wimbledon, where she's set to become the first-seeded Filipina player in history, thanks to a stellar Berlin run. The torch and the flame standing shoulder to shoulder. This was history meeting destiny, and they were wearing the same colors. But here is what makes the narrative cut deeper. This was not a coronation handed to two stars. Both had been bruised entering this match. Both players entered the tournament as wildcards and had already bowed out of the singles play in the opening round. Eala had fallen, Williams had fallen, two warriors arriving at the doubles court, not riding momentum, but carrying disappointment. And what they did with that disappointment is the entire story. Their opponents were no charity case either. Catherine Harrison and Alexandra Osborne were ranked number 142 and number 143 in the WTA doubles rankings, respectively. Seasoned campaigners, specialists, the kind of grass court grinders who feast on superstar egos and untested partnerships. On paper, this was supposed to be a test, a genuine, uncomfortable test. It lasted 70 minutes. Let me paint you the picture of how this match actually unfolded, because the scoreline alone hides the drama within it. Eala and Williams set the tone early as they cruised to a 4-0 lead in the first set. Osborne and Harrison managed to cut the deficit to 5-2, but the Filipina-American duo stayed in control and closed out the set by taking the 9th game, 4 games to love, in a partnership playing its very first match together. Read that again and let the absurdity of it settle. Most pairings spend their opening games apologizing to each other, miscommunicating at the net, leaving lanes open. Eala and Williams opened with a perfect storm. This is where the statistics become storytelling. Picture a first serve percentage hovering around that commanding 68% mark, a number that tells you everything about composure under the lights of a debut. When you are landing better than 2 of every 3 first serves, you are not surviving, you are dictating. You are stripping away the return game of your opponents before they ever get a swing at a second serve. That 68% was not luck. That was a serving clinic anchored by the towering power of a woman who has been firing serves at this level since before her partner was born. And when the points became fragile, when the match hinged on a single swing, this is where legends are separated from contenders. 4 breakpoints out of 7 converted, roughly 57%. In doubles on grass, where service holds are the currency of the sport, converting more than half your breakpoint chances is not a number. It is a sledgehammer. Every time the door cracked open, this pair did not knock politely. They tore the door off its hinges. But greatness is never tested when you are ahead. It is tested when the lead slips through your fingers, and it did. In the second set, Osborne and Harrison had recovered, forcing a 4-4 tie after gaining a break point. The final two games belonged to Eala and Williams, however, allowing them to secure their straight-set victory. This was the moment. This was the crucible. 4 games all, second set, a brand new partnership feeling the first real surge of pressure, the opponent smelling blood, the momentum visibly shifting. A lesser team folds here. A nervous team coughs up the set and gets dragged into a deciding tiebreak where anything can happen. But this is precisely where the champion's heartbeat slows down. A 4-0 opening paved the way for Eala and Williams to a swift first-set win before Osborne and Harrison showed some resistance, pulling level at 4-4 in the second set. But Eala and Williams broke their foes in the following game to surge ahead at 5-4, then held serve to complete the victory. They broke immediately. At the exact instant when doubt should have crept in, they answered with violence and precision. That is not chemistry built over months. That is chemistry built from character. So how did they actually do it? How does a partnership that had never existed before walking onto the court manufacture this kind of control? The answer lies in the geometry of their games. It was almost a perfect first set performance from the two as they opened a 4-0 advantage behind the combinations of their backhands. Think about the tactical intelligence here. Williams brings the booming serve and the flat penetrating power that flattens grass court bounces into impossible-to-handle missiles. Eala brings the lefty angles, the quick hands, the youthful court coverage that patrols the gaps. One overwhelms, one suffocates. Together they leave no safe target. The serve patterns were ruthless. With first serves landing at that 68% clip, the return team was perpetually on the back foot, forced to chip and float balls into a net position manned by two players who could finish. The poaching, the closing at the net, the willingness to gamble on the volley, these are instincts, and instincts cannot be faked. Eala showed consistency and aggression, while Williams displayed power. The young one held the rallies together, the legend ended them. And the movement told its own quiet story. The Eala-Williams tandem needed just 1 hour and 10 minutes to secure a spot in the next round. 70 minutes. There is no fatigue in 70 minutes. There is no time for the opponents to find a foothold, to build a read on patterns, to settle into the match. This was a partnership playing fast, playing decisive, refusing to let the contest breathe. That tempo, that relentless, suffocating pace was a tactical weapon in itself. But strip away the serves and the angles and the footwork, and what remains is the thing that cannot be coached. Composure. The highly anticipated tandem wasted little time finding its rhythm and chemistry despite persistent attempts from their rivals in the second set. Persistent attempts. That phrase carries the weight of the entire match. The opponents did not roll over. They fought. They clawed back to 4-4. They generated a break point and seized a tie when the momentum was theirs for the taking. And in that storm, the new partnership did not flinch. There is a particular kind of mental strength required to play your first match with an idol standing beside you and refusing to let the moment swallow you whole. I am really excited, said Eala, of teaming up with Williams. Venus is such a trailblazer and continues to do so much and has done so much for the sport. For Eala, this was not just a doubles match. This was sharing a court with the woman whose poster might once have hung on her wall, and yet, no stage fright, no deference, no shrinking. She played like an equal because in that moment, she was one. And for Williams, after an opening round singles exit, after years of injuries and doubters and whispers that the twirl belonged to the past, she walked onto that grass and reminded the world that the fire still burns. The pressure point at 4-all was not survived by the rookie or by the legend. It was survived by both together in a partnership that had no right to be this fearless this fast. But let us be honest, because honesty is what separates analysis from worship. This was not flawless. Osborne and Harrison managed to cut the deficit to 5-2 in the first set, and in the second set, Osborne and Harrison grabbed a 3-2 advantage before being reeled back in. There is the warning sign, the lapses, the brief windows where the intensity dipped and the opponents surged. Those moments, the slide from 4-0 to 5-2, the surrender of a 3-2 edge, speak to a partnership still learning to close the door with both hands. Against a pair ranked outside the world's top 140, those flickers were absorbed and corrected. But the second serve, the consolidation games, the killing instinct when a set should be put away cleanly, these are the margins that elite opposition will exploit without mercy. And elite opposition is exactly what comes next. Up next for the Filipino-American pair is a tough quarterfinal clash against the tournament's second-seeded team of Teresa Mihalikova of Slovakia and Olivia Nichols of Great Britain, one of the most accomplished doubles pairings on the tour. Against that level, a slip from 4-0 to 5-2 is not a hiccup. It is a death sentence. If Eala and Williams want this fairy tale to continue, the lapses must vanish, step back, and the implications stretch far beyond a single result. Chanda Rubin lauded the duo as a bit of a dream given the tickets Venus sells and the rising star that Eala is. They can still sell so many tickets in terms of Venus and Serena, and Eala is one of the most popular players around the globe. They are also legends with the Williams sisters, so they should be able to get anywhere, Rubin said. This partnership is bigger than the points. It is a cultural collision. The most decorated American family in the history of the sport joining hands with the woman carrying an entire nation's tennis hopes on her shoulders. Ranked 30th in the world, Eala will be seated in a Grand Slam for the first time as she gets a first-round bye at Wimbledon. She arrives in London not as a hopeful, but as a seed, not as a wild-card surprise, but as an expected force. And for Williams, the trajectory points to something deeply poetic. Williams, who won 5 of her 7 major singles titles at Wimbledon, renews her iconic doubles partnership with younger sister Serena, who came out of retirement. This bad Hamburg run is the bridge to that reunion. Every breakpoint converted here, every nerve held steady, is fuel for the storyline waiting at the All England Club. The message to the rest of the tour is unmistakable. A partnership assembled days ago, weathering 2 singles losses, just dismantled a seasoned specialist pairing in straight sets and 70 minutes. If this is what they look like on day 1, imagine day 10. So remember this night. Remember the 4-0 opening that announced their intent. Remember the 68% first serves that strangled the return. Remember the 4 break points seized like a predator seizing prey. Remember the 4-all crisis answered not with fear, but with a break and a hold and a handshake. Venus Williams and Alexandra Eala enjoyed a winning debut in Bad Homburg, defeating Catherine Harrison and Alexandra Osborne in straight sets to reach the quarterfinals. And as is tradition, it ended with Venus's trademark twirl. That twirl was not a celebration of one match, it was a promise. This was not 2 players surviving a first round. This was the past and the future discovering they speak the same language. This was a legend refusing to fade and a phenom refusing to wait. This was the moment the tennis world realized that a partnership built in days had the heart of a partnership built over decades. And so we arrive at the truth that this entire night was screaming from the very first ball. This is not the end. This is the beginning.